All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Carolyn. I know some of you were here last week. I'm so thankful, grateful that you guys came back to learn some more about the job search process. But today we're going to be talking about cover letters. And I would say this is probably the document that kind of gives most people the most, I would say, anxiety and confusion. It is kind of a weird thing. Like, obviously your resume is a pretty comprehensive review of your work history and the types of things you were responsible for. And so what is this thing called a cover letter? I will be honest and tell you all that even recently, or until maybe 5, 10 years ago, I actually thought that cover letter was basically just taking your resume and putting it into a letter format. And that is not exactly what a cover letter is or what it really should be. So this workshop, we're going to be talking about what a cover letter is, how to write a great one, and then with the advent of tools like artificial intelligence, I'm going to show you how you can write a really good cover letter using something like ChatGPT that can save you a lot of time in the process of writing your letter, because it is very time consuming to write a good one for most people. Okay, so what is a cover letter? And will anyone read it? Let's actually address that first. You have to go with the assumption that the person reviewing your application materials will in fact read the letter. Will they actually? 50-50 toss up. I've talked to a lot of hiring managers, and some of them don't like the cover letter and they just go straight to the resume. Other people always read the cover letter to decide whether they will proceed to the resume. So if you don't know for a fact what the policy is of the place you're applying to, absolutely dedicate time to writing a good letter. Basically what it is, think of it like a formal business letter that, again, you're trying to use it to entice somebody to read your resume. So it should be, or it might be, your first introduction to the person who was reading your materials. Think of it that way. You can show more personality on your cover letter than in your resume. It's not maybe always appropriate to do so, depending on your industry. Like, for instance, if you're in a more conservative field like legal or accounting, it's really not appropriate to be lighthearted or kind of make jokes or do something very creative in the cover letter, even if that kind of is your personality. But if you're in a more creative field or marketing, your cover letter could actually like serve as part of your portfolio. This is an example. It's going to sound random, but for somebody actually who was applying to a marketing job, rather than starting their letter with something like, I am writing to apply to, their first sentence was baby food. And then it repeated baby food. And then they said, baby food was my first introduction to. And I honestly don't remember the rest of the context, but obviously a beginning like that is very intriguing. And for some people, they would keep reading. But again, that's for like if you're in a creative field, because again, you're showcasing that you address things in maybe a less traditional way. Okay, now the last bullet point. This is how a cover letter relates to a resume. It will, or it should, highlight or expand on points that you have made in the resume. 2 to 3 points. The ones that you feel demonstrate that you're a great fit for this job, or the top 2 or 3 factors that those employers state they're looking for to fulfill this position. You want to grab those points and put them in the cover letter and provide more example, more context than you did in the resume. I'll give you an example later, don't worry. We're just kind of talking generalities right now. Okay, we're going to back up a little bit and talk about formatting, because like I said at the beginning, a cover letter is a business letter, and there are standards for how you actually format those. This letter sample that you see on the right is actually not a cover letter, but it is a business letter, and it gives a good example. You always will include some sort of heading that has your personal contact info. You can format it like this one. The reason I picked this is you can see that this is formatted kind of like you could format a resume header. And often what people do is they will use the same header format that they put on their resume and have it on the cover letter. So if it was a different format where maybe she had her information on a block off to the side here, you could keep that. Don't have to, but you can. But you do include your name, your address, basically your name, address, and contact info, then the date. Then this is the tricky part. Ideally, you have a person to address the letter to. Realistically, we don't always have that, especially if we're responding to a job we found online. So you could, in that case, just write to whom it may concern, or hiring manager or hiring committee. But if you have someone's name, even better, you put their name, their title, and then the name of the company this is being sent to and their address. And then you have a formal salutation, is what this is called, the dear, and then Mr. or Ms. Or dear hiring committee, if you, again, don't know. And then the body, again, what's written here is not a cover letter. Just look at the formatting here. You have the body of what you're writing, the main meat, let's say. And then you have a sign off. It could be sincerely, respectfully, something like that. And then you can either manually sign it, but again, most of us are sending these things electronically, so just typing out your name is fine. A couple of formatting things, don't use like zero margin, like 0.7 to 1 inch margin, so it looks like a normal letter, 11 to 12 point font. If it's got like you're trying to squeeze all this information onto one page and you've used a 7-point font, no one wants to read that. It means it won't be read. So again, keep the font to a level that most of us are used to dealing with. A professional type font, I've given you some examples here. They're not the only ones, but nothing that looks like handwriting or anything like that. Two formatting considerations though, these last 2 bullet points, these are things that people often don't know. When you're writing your resume and cover letter, it can be kind of normal, like when you're on your own computer, to save it as resume. And then the next thing, save it as cover letter. But think about the hiring managers. If they just had this huge list of files that were sent to them, all called resume and all called cover letter, it might be hard for them to find your material specifically. So it's smart to include your name as part of the file name. And then you could say cover letter. Sometimes, so I know I'm sending the right letter, I will even write the name of the company, so Carolyn Darren cover letter, Pasadena City College or something, wherever it is I'm applying for a job. And the other tip is just save it and upload it as a PDF, just again, so your formatting is maintained. Because if you do something like Microsoft Words or not Words, but Word, there's other programs, sometimes just whatever program the recipient uses to open it, it might change your formatting and you just don't want that. So quick tips about how it should look in formatting. Okay, other things. Use a professional tone. Don't try to write don't try to sound like a book or whatever, or super formal, because again, they're really the point of the resume and cover letter is to make you an appealing and relatable potential candidate. So if it feels like a business school wrote the letter, that just sounds like you're being inauthentic. So speak authentically, but professionally. So don't use abbreviations, don't use slang, definitely use the right spelling and punctuation, tone, so things like that. With this short document, the first 2 paragraphs are usually the most important, right? People are busy and they're not necessarily curling up in front of the fireplace to savor your cover letter. They're busy, they're getting through a lot of documents quickly, so they're reading fast. And so you want the most relevant information to be forward near the top, and you also want to write clearly and, like, I would say convincingly, or at least clearly, so they know what they're reading, what your point is, and you push some of your selling points forward early. Don't make them wait till the end, because if they don't see it early, they might not keep reading. Ideally, you customize your cover letter to the job description. Now, like some of you heard me say with Resume Workshop last week, this is a perfect world scenario. We can't always tailor every single cover letter to every single job we apply to, but if you, again, for those jobs that you really want, like for whatever reason, I would strongly consider adjusting that cover letter specifically to that job. And we'll talk about, again, examples of that. At the very least, if you are applying, and most people I know when they're looking for work, there might be like maybe 2 or 3 types of jobs they're applying to at a given time. Like for in my industry, some of the jobs that I applied to were more focused on, let's say, academic counseling. Others were more focused on career counseling. Others were more focused on teaching courses at the college. So I had 3 versions of my resume. One that put, or of my cover letter. One that focused on my general counseling strengths, one my career counseling strategy or philosophy, and one on my teaching examples. And then when I had those master documents, I could look at what each particular school was looking for and adjust and tinker. But again, if you really didn't have time to do that for each job, at least they're getting a somewhat customized resume for that field at least. Okay, so we're gonna now like look at what actually you're supposed to write to fill this document. We know we've already talked about the header, the date, the recipient's address. This actually isn't showing us anything new. Let me move on. Introductory paragraph. Okay, so you do have at least 3 paragraphs in a cover letter. Introduction, body paragraph, which can be more than one, and then a sign-off, brief conclusion / call to action paragraph. The intro and the call to action should both be brief and to the point. The real meat is the body paragraph or body paragraphs. For most jobs, especially if you're like entry level, 1 page is what you want. You don't want to write more. If you're a more experienced professional and you have a lot of experience to share, maybe 2 pages. But most jobs, again, they're looking at 1 page. So in your mind, you can imagine you can't fit more than like, again, you have to put spaces between the paragraphs also. That's something I forgot to point out to you prior. So just logistically or physically on the page, you can really only fit maybe like 4-ish paragraphs, 2 body, and then 2 short intro and conclusion. Okay, what do you put in the intro? Get to the point. State the job you're applying for. Dear Mr. Smith, I am applying for the entry-level comptroller 2 position at the Walt Disney Company. So tell them what you're applying for so they know. And then it's often standard to tell them or list how you found out about the job. I found out or I learned of this position through Indeed.com or at the LAX job fair. Or third, this is the golden one. You have a personal reference. Not always going to have it, but when you do, you absolutely name drop. I found out about this position from my colleague, Alex Baldwin. He currently works at the company in this department, and he felt my skills of blah, blah, blah would be a great match for your position. So something. So again, what you're applying for, how you found out about the job, and then this is the transition to the body. Something like, please allow me to share why I feel I'm a great fit, or please allow me to highlight how my adherence to customer service and drive to, I don't know, sell a lot of merchandise, these are bad examples, could be used at your company. So something to transition to the next point, which is you sharing examples from your resume, but in more detail. So here's an actual written example. So you don't have to go by my example I'm trying to make up. All right. So you can see here, I'm writing to apply for the comptroller 2 position. I picked something kind of like awkward on purpose. Yes, it could just be for a customer service representative, but I picked something very specific because if you're applying to a place like a large company, they will have very specific job titles and they need to know like basically which pile your materials go into, like which job you're applying to. So don't feel like it's weird to be specific about the exact job title. All right, I was excited to learn of this job opportunity from my former colleague, Alex Johnson. He and I have worked closely together for many years, most recently on a complex data analysis project at this company. He thought I would be a good match for the position on your team. Okay, so something that's great if you have that. But I mean, I know in the vast majority of time you don't have that personal reference. So to adjust. And again, I don't have this example written out, but something like, I learned of this job at the LAX job fair on June 10th. If you spoke to the recruiter, name drop that person. If not, just keep moving ahead. I feel I'm a great fit for this because, and then again, you highlight your skills or your experiences, just name them. And then in the body, you're going to elaborate on those things. Okay, body paragraphs. Match your experiences with the job description. Okay, so what I've got here is a job description that I copied and pasted. The second white block was copy and pasted. So this is what they're looking for. This was at the top of their desired qualifications. I'm going to give us a moment to look at this. The position requires applicants must possess a minimum of 3 years full-time GIS technical work, conducting complex models, analyses, and programming in GIS, developing and managing an enterprise GIS utilizing current GIS mapping software, such as ArcPro or ArcGIS SDE geodatabase with MS, SQL, and a multi-user environment, and 2 years full-time experience in an information technology or GIS management or supervisory capacity. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of information in there. Okay, but there's a couple things that I saw that they need. They need to know about me to consider for me for this job. Number one, I need to have at least 3 years experience. So I'm not going to be fancy. I'm just going to tell them I have it. Okay. I have over 3 years experience in creating complex models in GIS. That complex models, that is the phrase they use too. I could have said complex projects, but I didn't. I put it in their same words because again, you don't know if this document is being scanned in with document scanning software to look for matches of keywords, and you want to match how they phrase it to increase your chance of getting on to the next round. Okay, so the first sentence was me just basically telling them, look what a great fit I am. I have some of the qualifications you're looking for, but they're not convinced, right? Like anybody can say that. Okay, so now I'm going to explain. In fact, during my most recent project at the Acme company, I created, and here I would explain what I did. And yes, the fact that I worked at Acme company and the fact that I created something is probably on my resume, but I'm going to go into more detail here. What did that entail? What were the results? I'm going to name drop some of these programs that they said they want me to have experience with. The other thing, though, that definitely would not be on your resume is connecting your experience to this employer's mission or what they're working on. So in this case, you might not have noticed the employer is basically the state of Pennsylvania. They call it a commonwealth, but you've made a connection for them here in this last sentence. This type of modeling work fits well with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's plans to. Okay, so maybe you might be going, how do I know what their plans are? Well, there's LinkedIn, there's Google, there's also the job description. It might be that they've told you in this job description that the reason this job is being created is because they're trying to expand their, green energy usage. And so they need to know who's doing it, who's not in the city. And that's why they need a GIS person. So if you can, again, elaborate on what you've done in more detail than on your resume and connect that to this company's mission or this job or a qualification that they want, that's what a cover letter is for. But again, you don't do it for every single point on your resume. You just pick like 2 or 3 things. Last paragraph. Thank them for reading it, reaffirm your interest in the position, and the call to action, which is the next steps that you hope to take or you hope they will take. Example, thank you for your time. Thank you for reading my letter or something like that. I look forward to speaking to you about my experience and passion for all aspects of web development. You can reach me at, or I hope to hear from you soon, or I will call to follow up on this application on March 10th. Again, depending on the context of how you applied and all of that. again, just so you know, in this modern day and age, if you're applying to things online, you often do not have access to like a hiring manager's phone number or anything like that. So you often can't reach out to them. But you could say, I look forward to hearing from you, or hopefully I look forward to setting up a time to talk in more detail about my qual or how I can serve Los Angeles City College or something. So it's brief. Thank you. I think I'm a great fit. I'm excited about this opportunity, whatever. Call to action. Easy. And that can be very formulaic and used from letter to letter. All right. Quick overviews here of just some general things to do and not do. Don't simply repeat your resume. I see that a lot. And again, people just don't know. This is a weird thing. Like, what do they want from me? What do you mean I have to write a letter? So don't just be like, I worked at Target for the last 3 years. I was a cashier. I helped people with their transactions. Next, I was the president of my, whatever club in high school. Like, that's just like taking the resume and turning it into an essay. You don't want to do that. Again, select a few points from your resume to elaborate on, and you're going to pick the few points that are either, generally speaking, the most sought after in your industry, or look at that individual job and look what they write at the top of their required qualifications or desired qualifications and focus on those. Yeah, this can be tricky. Can I say I? Hey, this is about you. And yes, you can use the word I, but do not start every sentence with I, because that just gets repetitive and it makes it feel kind of simple or like you don't have sophisticated writing skills. So, the first time through, if the way that it comes to you is just to start every sentence with I, just do it, just get it on paper, but then do revise that out and vary how you start your sentences. Okay, so don't beg for an interview. Also don't patronize. I actually took a slide out, but there were some examples that I found where people were just like, please, I'm not overqualified. What I am qualified, it was just very pretentious. So again, just try to come across as straightforward, friendly, direct, somebody that you would want to work with. And if you're not sure about your tone, feel free to take it to the writing center, bring it into the career center. We will give you honest but caring feedback. But yeah, do genuinely share why you'd like to work for their company. Now, okay, there might be some companies that you genuinely want to work for more than others. Could be lots of reasons for that. Could be like maybe you really believe in the mission of a company. If that's the case, express that in the letter. That's not going to be on your resume. Tell them why it would mean so much to you to work for whatever company it is. Like, you've been following their media since you were a kid, or one of their products, you've been using it in your adult life every day, or you believe in their mission. So things like that, if that's true, share it. Don't share things like, I want to work at this company because the commute is easy for me. They don't care. This is all about what you bring to them. So even if that's your real reason, you're just like, I don't care. I just need a job. And this one's kind of close. Again, look at their website, see if there's anything about what they do that you do connect with or do feel positively about, and share it. You never know. That might be the thing that sets you apart that somebody else didn't do. So whether it's genuine or not, if you do share it, again, just don't make it all about you. Like, I don't know, like, yeah, just it's a good commute. It pays well. My friend works there. No, they want to know what you bring to them, not how it's going to make your life better to work for them. Okay, yeah, these are just some examples of like weird things that people have written on their cover letters. But we'll kind of pass through that. I think you guys get the idea. Okay. We're going to look at one example, and then we're going to make one with ChatGPT. And you're going to see how much time that beautiful tool will save you. All right, general cover letter. So yours is not going to say that. This is just because it's an example. But do notice that she has her contact information up here. This would be her name. Like, again, this would be the format of her resume. Name, oops, she didn't put the company mailing address, but we'll skip past that. Dear Ms. Doe, I was excited to see your job listing for the senior digital media marketing position at Westward Strategies on Indeed.com. So again, they know exactly what you're applying for. She didn't just write the marketing position. Because again, that number one kind of shows like, do you actually know what you're applying for? Number two, what if they're hiring like 5 different positions within marketing? You've already lost them, so list it. And notice here, she doesn't have a personal reference. She just says where she found it. As a dynamic email marketing specialist with over 2 years of professional experience executing market research, analyzing consumer data, and running A/B tests to drive successful marketing campaigns, I'm confident I would be a valuable asset to the team. Okay, so this is kind of like her thesis statement, right? If you've taken English 101, this is the main thing about me. This is the main argument I'm trying to make. I'm dynamic, I have experience, and these are the types of things I've done. Okay, your job listing mentions a need for someone who is experienced in email segmentation and campaign development. So again, she is connecting this to the job and indicating she's actually read the damn job, the job description. She's not just sending this out to every company. Both of which I have extensive experience in. Currently employed at Marketed Incorporated, where I've honed my skills by running numerous successful email campaigns. While employed here, I've spearheaded a digital promotion campaign for the company's new line of sandals that successfully raised our total online engagement by an impressive 13% over the course of 6 months. So here again, these are kind of things that are on the resume, but she put a little seasoning on it. Like, hey, I had an impressive outcome. You don't use the word impressive on the resume. Spearheaded is a word she could have borrowed from the resume, but again, she's highlighting here that she's a leader. And I would guess that the phrase email segmentation and the phrase campaign development were also in the job listing. So again, she's really trying to show she's a fit for this. All right, I'm confident that my proven track record of excellent work ethic, unparalleled attention to detail, and high-performing email marketing campaigns will make me an immediate asset and allow me to contribute to the team's success. I look forward to discussing. So yeah, you can basically see these last 2 paragraphs. They're both conclusion paragraphs. You could combine those, just the different style. I think if the student had come to me for feedback, I would have probably encouraged her to give like maybe one more example that shows, her past experience with one of these skills they're looking for. But this still, you get the idea. And this cover letter is very good. Okay. I used to be an English professor. I'm a good writer. I'm decent. I'm not some professional writer. I'm not, it doesn't just like flow out of me like magic or anything like this, but I'm a decent writer. To write a cover letter, I used to tell students in workshops at least 45 minutes on the first draft. And then I started talking to colleagues because I didn't want to scare students. And I was like, hey, how long did it take you to write your cover letter? And they're like, oh, days. Yeah. And I think 2 hours-ish is probably more realistic for a first draft. And then you definitely want to step away from it, come back to it, revise it, because there will be typos you didn't catch or something that you thought was clear is kind of written awkwardly. We all need to walk away from our writing and come back at least an hour or 2 later and look at it with fresh eyes. But for jobs you really want, these documents matter. And phrasing things directly, clearly. You saw in that last example, she had a lot of really unique verbs that we don't use in everyday conversation that really I felt like made her stand out and made it look like she like really put effort into that letter. And frankly, that takes time. And so I just want to be honest and authentic that even if writing isn't your strength, or even if it is, this is very time consuming. But here along comes ChatGPT. Does anyone want to give me a field or a job title? Otherwise, I'm just going to go, it's on my screen here. This is like the last job I worked with somebody for. So we're gonna pretend we're applying to this ultrasound technologist job as long as it has a decent description. And it does. Okay, let me just see here. All right, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna copy and paste the parts of this that relate to what they're looking for and also the company philosophy, okay? So ChatGPT, I'm gonna say, I don't know, I'm just weird and I act like it's a person. Hello, please write a cover letter for the following job Description. Hopefully it knows that I don't. Okay, so there's that, but there was more information came after the benefits. Again, I don't want to put in the benefits necessarily, but these, again, this is like a medical type job. And so there's often certifications that you need to have or that they prefer you to have. I'm going to add that too. Okay, let's see what it gave us. And the reason I go through that whole workshop before doing this is because I want you to basically understand what a cover letter is and what it's supposed to do. So you can compare that to what ChatGPT or your AI of choice gives us. See what you think of it. But I also want to tell you that like maybe 2-3 years ago when AI kind of started to be in the news a little more, I remember reading the newspaper and there was an article, I think it was the LA Times, and they had let's say 6 cover letters, and they said, "Can you spot which of these is written by a robot?" And I thought, certainly, like I spent 15 years teaching English, like I'm pretty attuned to language. And I'm a career counselor. I'm the perfect person to be able to tell it this, right? And I looked at them and I'll tell you, they were all 6 good letters and not one of them sounded robotic. I couldn't tell. The other thing I will warn you of, though, is like anything, and I know I said this last week with ChatGPT, use it as a starting point. Don't just wholesale use it, copy paste, because there are certain styles that it kind of uses repeatedly. And those of us who have been exposed to it now, or those of us who are just, let's say, like a little more attuned to language, pick up on it. And so I gave that example last week, and I won't give the whole thing again, but there was a situation that my husband had where somebody used ChatGPT to apply for a job, got into the interview, and when my husband read me what he'd written to get to that interview, 3 words in, I'm like, that's ChatGPT. I could just tell because I've worked with this tool enough that I kind of know it's like default style. And yeah, you can tell it, write this with humor, write this in a formal way, and it will change its style. But just be careful. Just don't copy paste because, again, people who read these all day long, they're going to have internalized that. But okay, that being said, let's see what it did. All right. I'm writing to express my interest. So again, to me, I'm like, wordy, apply. But okay, like I'm writing to express my interest in the diagnostic medical sonographer position at Cedars-Sinai Marina del Rey as advertised, which is blank, right? So again, there you'd want to say on Indeed.com or just cut that part off. So you need to tinker there. Otherwise, it looks very generic and weird. With my certification in diagnostic medical sonography, my commitment to patient care, and my passion for working in a collaborative healthcare environment, I'm excited about opportunity to join a facility known for exciting patient and community for exceeding patient and community expectations. Let's back up, and I want to just look at their phrasing because it is pretty short. So see what ChatGPT did. It just basically borrowed this language. Now, I don't know you, everyone's different. I think that's a little cheesy. I don't think it's cheesy that Cedars-Sinai wrote this because that's what corporations do. But I think it's cheesy to just copy and paste it and put it here. But you could then, to me, I'd be like, oh, I like the idea of what they're doing, but I think that's a little cheesy. So I might say, I'm excited about the opportunity to join Cedars-Sinai, one of the premier hospitals in Los Angeles or something. So I would tweak it in a way that didn't feel like cheeseball to myself. But again, if you like that phrasing, it's just a preference. But you can see what it's done is it has directly used phrasing here in the cover letter. The other thing is, okay, this top part is basically the generic part about Cedars. The bottom part is telling us what's required. All right, the other thing it did is right up top, it told them I'm certified. And again, remember, the top 2 paragraphs are the most important. What are they applying for? Are they qualified? Do I want to keep reading? So right off the bat, at least, I know this person isn't still in school or just like likes the idea of being an ultrasound and I'm a fast learner, you can teach me. They have the certification. All right, moving on. It's a lot of paragraphs. I don't like that, but all right. I meet the qualifications outlined in the job description, including being eligible with the, I'm just gonna go past that, this abbreviation. I hold current BLS certification and my background includes over a year of experience oops, in radiologic and imaging procedures. This experience has honed my skills in performing precise ultrasonic recordings of internal organs for diagnostic purposes, as well as fostering effective communications with patients, families, and medical teams. Okay, this is a little general, just going to say, but still, again, we're using this as a tool to get us started and to save us a big chunk of time. I'm just going to say, I don't like this long wind up. I just want you to tell me what qualifications. So you could say, I would just start with, I hold these certifications, or because they're all about exceeding expectations of the community and patients, you could say, I know that Cedars-Sinai wishes to exceed expectations. That is also my philosophy when working with patients. And then you tell a story about a time you exceeded expectations. Okay, so like again, that kind of story wouldn't be in your resume, but you could put it in the cover letter. But you can see, like, I'm already diverting pretty far off of what ChatGPT gave us. But again, it was a good starting point. It's better to work with this than a blank page, I think. All right, I like this. What excites me most about this opportunity is the commitment to excellent teamwork and service orient. I thrive in environments that prioritize respect, communication, enthusiasm. I'm confident my skills. Yeah, again, this is very general. I want more examples. And again, we gave it very little to work with. We didn't say, which we could, maybe we should. We could say, include my experience with this. And we could have copied and pasted from the resume. Or we could write out a time when, like, there was this patient that was brought in and whatever happened that you did that kind of went above and beyond and made a difference. You could write that out and say, please incorporate this example. And it would. But again, you can see that this gives you a nice template to work with. But just like me, as your career counselor now, and probably all of your writing professors tell you, show, don't tell. Don't tell me you're compassionate and dedicated. You can tell me that to start, but I need to see it, right? So I want a concrete example to humanize you. This example here, I would say, if you came to me with this, I'd say, it's good. It's a B. You could really, I want some more examples, and I would cut some of the general stuff out. But again, this is still a very valuable tool for, getting you started. Let's do this. I'm just really curious. Great start. Can you include, I'm just going to see what it does if I don't even give it any examples. More specific examples of my service-oriented attitude. I'm just really curious what it's going to do with this. Because again, I could have obviously, if I had something in mind, I could have just written it out and said, hey, put this in there somewhere. Let's just see what it does really quick. Yeah, so already this second paragraph is already more specific. In my previous role as a diagnostic sonographer, I made it a priority to provide compassionate care, ensuring that patients felt comfortable and informed throughout their procedure. For example, I routinely took the time to explain the ultrasound process to patients, particularly those who were anxious. I believe that communication is key to providing excellent service. Do you see how I think that's better than just saying, I'm also very caring and team-oriented? This actually gives me some idea of like, oh, they explain things. They realize people. Yes. Oops, somebody lost their connection. So, and you could see I didn't give it any example, and already it's a lot better. So, in summary, cover letter, assume they will read it. It's an enticement to read the resume. It's setting the tone for who you are as a person and highlighting 2 to 3 things in detail about yourself that they're looking for in the job. That's it. You can write it from scratch if you want to do that. Obviously, if you want to use a tool like this to get you started and revise, you can do that. I have the free version, just so you know here. I'm not doing anything fancy here. Also, just know, like everything else career, we're here to support you. So if you're wanting feedback on your cover letter, still have questions, always welcome to make a follow-up appointment in the Career Center. I'm gonna just put the link of where you do that. So just gonna Google LACC Career Center to show how easy it is to find us. Oh, here's in Welcome Center. Real quick, people are hopping off because some people are like, yeah, I know how to get to you. Next week, there was supposed to be a workshop at same day, same time, same place. I had a family emergency, so I'm going to be off next Wednesday. So next Wednesday is a skip. But then the first Wednesday in November, we are back. I forget the topic of that one. I think it's interviewing. But just keep an eye out on your email because we'll definitely be promoting it. And I think with the LinkedIn that was supposed to be next week, I'm just gonna like tack it on to the end of the semester. So just so you know, well, you can come, but no one will be here next week. It's just because I had an unforeseen thing come up. But again, Google LACC Career Center. We're right here to make appointments with. We're happy to work with you. I hope you learned something about writing cover letters today. It's a pain in the butt for everyone. Please don't think it's just you. It is like a really dreaded aspect of the job search process, but we're here to help you with it. So thanks for attending today. I know I got both of your guys' student IDs, which I really appreciate. And I hope to see you at the next one of these, which would be the first Wednesday of November. And actually, does anyone have any questions? I didn't even ask. I was too preoccupied with trying to turn off the recording. Let me just do that really quick. Stop recording. Okay. Were there